Hi everyone, today I'm going to paint this row of houses in a country lane using ink and watercolor. Supplies for today: I've got a pencil and eraser, a Pigma Micron permanent fine liner pen in size 05. I've got two round brushes, a Winsor & Newton Cotman size 4 and a silver black velvet size 8. I've got my studio palette of colors, tissue for blotting, water and a spray bottle. Before I begin, I just wanted to take this photograph and just discuss a little bit about the perspective involved here, because getting perspective wrong in a sketch like this can just make the whole thing look wrong, and sometimes it's not easy to identify where we've gone wrong. We just have a look at it and we can see that there's something that's not quite right. So when I've got a photograph like this of a sketch that I'm about to do, the first thing that you can see is that if I have a look at this row of houses, there are some lines that are pointing downwards and then there are some lines that are pointing upwards. This row of houses here has got what is called a single point perspective, where all of those lines do converge to a single point. The first thing that I do when I've got perspective like this is I try and find what is called the horizon line. The horizon line is the line that is drawn, if I draw it across, everything on it is in a straight line. So you can see I can join all the bricks in a single line and the line is horizontal. So anything on this line is going to be horizontal. Anything above that line is going to point downwards and anything below that line is going to point upwards. Just for interest's sake, the horizon line is always going to correspond with the eye level of the person who's taking the photograph, so you know where they were standing when they took it. So I find when I am sketching a photograph onto my sketch paper, I often will sketch the horizon line, because that is often not in the center of the page. This is slightly above the center, but it really could be anywhere on the page. So I do indicate the horizon line for myself, and then I might just do a couple of guidelines, find that vanishing point, and then do a couple of guidelines towards it as I have done here on my sketch paper, because then sort of anything in between there, we can predict what the angle of the lines is going to be. That means that all of the tops of the windows and the tops of the doors are also going to follow that same pattern. Another thing to point out with perspective when you are drawing things like houses is that the doors and the windows closer to us, there is a greater portion of the door and the window that we can actually see. And the further away that we go, the narrower the doors and the windows become. So we've got to also keep that aware of that when we are sketching, because it's often tempting to keep the width of windows and doors the same because we know that they are the same size, but because they are moving away from us, they get narrower and we can see less of them. This wall also has its own perspective that would have its own vanishing point somewhere over here. We can see here the lines are pointing upwards. Maybe I'm just going to get a pen to show you that. With this one, the vanishing point is off the page, so it's more difficult to get them all to join. So it's more just an observation here, that here the lines are going up. Here the lines are going down. And somewhere there's also going to be a horizon line where the lines are horizontal. You see, like that's still down. That's also down. Yeah, so it likely will correspond in the same place here and then be going down and down and down. So keep in mind that the top of that door is not going to be in line with the floor here. This is pointing up, this is pointing down when we come to the sketch. So there's also things like that to consider for that wall that is facing us. So here is the traced pencil sketch of from the traceable sketch reference that I have provided for you. If you have a look at the link in the description box below. So all that I've sketched out for you is some basic pencil lines, just indicating the basic lines of the roofs, tops of the doors, corners of the walls, and so on. And I'm going to work now in a Pigma Micron permanent liner pen, and in a size 05, and I'm going to do some sketching outlines here. As I work through, I'm going to be conscious of the fact that I don't want to, especially if you've got the pencil line down, to kind of draw straight over and keep it all exactly the same. It does make it look a bit fixed and rigid if I do that. I want to keep quite a light hand on my pen, and even if the lines are not continuous, and they're slightly broken, then that's exactly what I want. So on the roof line here, I haven't done the little bits of grass and so on that we can do now when we work with our pen. I think this is running out a bit. I'm just going to change it. So that's the top of the little plants, and then there'll be the roof line below. So I'm going to let music play whilst I do this, because it's going to take a bit of time, but you can follow along with me. But you can just see how lightly I'm working with my pen, trying to just let the top of the pen dance across the page, and the cold pressed paper that I'm doing here has got texture, so it is doing that. And we're just going to get a basic outline with our marker pen. Now that my basic ink sketch is down, I'm going to see if I can use my pen to help me build any more sort of points of interest. So I want to do heavier lines on the areas where there is going to be shadow. So I'm looking at underneath all of the thatching here. So there's going to be heavy shadow there. So I'm going to go and increase the intensity or the thickness of my black lines in that area. I'm even going to do a little bit of hatching here. Putting a few more lines up in the center and to the right. Then I'll do some hatching in the doorway and the windows. I can see shadow underneath where the plants meet the thatching here, so I'm going to thicken the line here. And then the side facing us is the shadow side of the chimney, so I'm going to make those a bit darker. And this corner is an important corner of the building, so I'm going to make that stand out. Likewise this edge here. So I don't want to do the whole sketch, I'm just finding those bits that are edges or prominent bits on each building and just doing that. Like there, I just did that and dropped down slightly. I didn't go all the way down, just indicating that that's a point, that's an edge, but I didn't take it all the way down. Likewise here, you can start there and just flick it down. I think that I should do a little bit of hatching underneath each of these thatch roofs. So I'm just doing diagonal lines and keeping them parallel to each other. And then I will just do where the base of the bushes is going to cast a shadow. And now I don't want to overdo it. I think I'm going to leave that for the pen work and then do the painting. Maybe actually before I stop, I'm just going to, I haven't done any brick or stone detail on the chimney. I'm just going to add the tiniest bit on both of those. That's enough. Alright, now onto the painting. I will spray my paints to activate them. I'm going to start with the thatching, and to do that I'm going to mix up a bluish grey. So I'm going to take burnt umber and I'm going to mix it with cobalt blue. I'm happy with that. I'm going to start with a... Oh, before I start, sorry, if you did want to erase any pencil, I don't have much visible pencil here, but if you did, you could erase any pencil marks before you start painting. Alright, that grey that I've prepared in a very, very watery consistency, I'm going to go and put it over the entire thatch area. And maybe what I'll do is I'll put some brown and put some blue so I can reach in for different colours as I'm putting the thatch down. If you are enjoying this video and you'd like to make a donation, in the description box below you will see a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page. On this website you are able to make a secure donation of any amount. If you have already made a donation, thank you. It's donations like this that help me to continue building my channel and producing content. I think I sprayed onto the paper here, that's why this one is leaking up into the sky area. And maybe whilst it is still wet, I'll see if I can put in any of the shadow on the thatch without it bleeding too far. My layer is quite wet, so there's a very real chance it's going to spread too far. But I've got a slightly thicker consistency on my brush. I'm just going to tap off so I don't have too much. And just try and drop over here and here. And maybe just a bit under the roof line here. But I think any additional shadowing we'll have to save that for an extra layer. But I'm happy with the way that the colours have granulated here. That's really nice. Then maybe I'm going to do a similar colour on the road. I like the fact that I do have mixed colours here. So let me do that. And what I'm actually going to do as I come towards me, it's also going to help with perspective. It's almost a dry brush technique. I'm going to let the paints make marks, leave white marks on the paper. It won't work if your brush is too wet. And then I'm just adding some additional texture and colour to the road. Just got a bit of a streak of the burnt umber there anyway. Alright, whilst that dries, I'm going to prepare some colours for the stones and the walls. I think I'm going to choose a base of raw sienna and then also do mixes as we go through the bricks so that it's not all the same. So I'm going to let that meet some cobalt blue, some Payne's grey, so because my roof is quite wet, I'm just going to leave this for maybe 2 minutes just to let it dry a bit more so that my colours don't all blend into each other. I'm going to prepare a very, very watery mix of the raw sienna and use that almost just as the base on the stones. I'm just going to go the whole way through and then I'll come and work on texture. Now I'm going to move around the palette and get all those different colours and drop them in around to try and get some variation. I'll even grab a bit of the burnt sienna. The wetter it is, the more it will blend, and at the moment that is pretty wet. I might come and add to it. Let me just go and do this one here. I like how I am getting a sort of mottled effect here, which is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just going to try and get a bit more of that. So particularly down here, I think this was quite wet. In recent videos, I explained that I'm very excited to announce that I have created a Patreon page called Christine McLaren Art. I put all of my videos, as well as the accompanying photographs and traceable sketch references, in the folder for each video on this Patreon page. You can join the free level of Patreon and have access to all of these videos and downloadable traceable sketch references. I find it to be a very nice platform on which I can consolidate and put all of the materials for each and every video. I'm just going to put a bit grayer, bluer in the bigger bricks here, because those are the ones that are darker in the painting, in the photograph. And I don't want to overdo it. I like the lightness that I'm getting here. If I keep on adding and keep on adding, it's just going to keep on getting darker. So I think that's perfectly fine. Now I think whilst that's beginning to dry, I'm going to prepare some colours for the bushes. So I need a couple of greens here, and maybe there's also those reddish leaves as well. So let's prepare some colours for that. I think I'm going to do Quinacridone Gold. I'm just mixed in the corner here because there's already some blue there. And I'll do some, where's French Ultramarine is here. Then I'll do the Quin Gold with Viridian. That's going to be a nice fresh green. And then as far as those reddish leaves are concerned, maybe I'll do some Quinacridone Rose, which is very pink on its own. But if I add some burnt sienna to it, perfect. So I'll start in the background and move forward here. Maybe I need one more green because there are quite a few different bushes. Maybe I'll do something a bit more muted. I'm going to take raw sienna and some phthalo blue. Oh, it's so intense, that phthalo blue. All right. I want to do mostly those red leaves here, but I'm going to do a green base. Alright, now I'm going to just mix up my greens a little bit. I'm going to take the darker one and put it here against the side of the building at the bottom. Just so that it's not all the same. The green is going into my building there, but that's absolutely fine. Alright, let me pick up and work with some of this red. It's very watered down on my palette, and so that's why it's mixing in so much, but that's fine. If I need to come and do another layer where I add some more definition, I will do that. And now I just don't really want there to be any white, so I'm just going to join everything up without adding any extra paint. I'm going to leave that for, I don't need to leave it for a minute. I can do the bit of foliage on top of the roofs. Alright, so now the colour on my palette is starting to dry, so I can pick it up in a slightly thicker consistency and also just add a bit of extra. I think I'm going to wait for these bushes to dry, and I will add an extra layer of the red on top to give it a bit more pop and definition. So I'm happy with that layer for now. I'm going to let it dry and then probably do the sky next. Alright, that's dry now, and now I've cleared off some space on my palette. I want to prepare the colour for the sky. And although I'm going to use a cobalt blue base, I'm going for quite a muted palette here, and so the cobalt blue will be way too bright on its own. So I am going to mute down the cobalt blue a little bit with a little bit of raw sienna. And I'm going to do that really, really watered down. So I've almost got entirely water on my brush now. I might add, but I'm just going to get some water down first. Now I'll just throw some of that in at the top and work it down. And although I'm not doing clouds per se, I am sort of giving an impression of clouds by just not putting the colour all the way or evenly. But I am keeping the intensity of the blue darker towards the top and then letting it grade out towards being lighter at the bottom. Yeah, I think that's more than enough. And then let me do some more of the red now that that has dried, and I can take the red in a thicker consistency. Alright, I'm going to let that all dry before I come in and do a shadow layer. Now that that's dry, I want to prepare a shadow colour for the buildings. So I'm going to prepare some burnt sienna, and I'm going to start with quite a thick consistency, and then to that I'm going to add some cobalt blue. I think a little bit bluer. Now I've got that in a thick consistency because I've got my eye on the area under the eaves here. So that colour's already on my brush. I don't want to lose it. I'm just going to get another brush just to put some water down. So I'm going to put some water under the roof line here because I'm going to put the shadow colour down, and then I'm going to, hopefully it's going to be encouraged to blend down a little way, because you can see that the shadow goes to about a quarter or a third of the way down the side of the building, but that it's most intense under the roof line. So I'm just going to put water down beyond the level where I'm hoping the shadow will blend. And I don't want it too wet, because if it's too wet it's going to blend too far. So I'm really just looking to prepare a damp surface here. And now with this thick consistency mix, I'm going to start in the area that's the darkest, which is under here and under there. I might have too much paint on this brush, and if I've used too much then it's going to blend too far. So then I'm going to go all the way under the roof line. And then I'm also going to do maybe water it down ever so slightly. I'm going to do this side of the roof that's in shadow. And also this bit of thatch here. Alright, I'm just keeping an eye on the amount of blending here. I'm happy with that. I'm going to get more of the concentrated mix on my brush and just drop it in here again in this sharp, darkest area again. And maybe with just on the tip of my brush, just underneath here, I'll add a bit more. Alright, then I'm going to go and do the window and doorways. those ones might still be in the midst of what I made wet, so I'm not going to put the shadow color in there yet because I don't want the window shadow to blend. The sides, I am aware that the sides of the windows and doors are also in shadow, but that's going to be a lighter shadow, so I'll do that just now. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare a more diluted mix of this shadow color to do the sides of the walls and chimneys and so on that are facing away from the light. So that shadow color is on this brush already, but I'm going to water it down over here. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to make this painting too grey. So that's watered down. Let's see how that looks if I put it on this side of the building. See already, I think that's a bit too dark. I'm going to just water it down, catch the edge there, because that bit of the brick up there must catch the light. So omit that and then come down. And that really does give the building a three-dimensional look as soon as we do that. And that will also be what separates this wall from this little bit of the next house that we can see along here. I'll come in and do the darker shadow in that door later. And likewise, this wall is in shadow. I also really don't want very much attention on this at all. If I could have done this again, I probably would have left this building completely unpainted. But for now, I'm just doing it in less detail than everywhere else. Then I must do the shadow side of the chimneys. I'm going to use the smaller brush, I think. I think it's dry enough that I can do the shadow side of the doors and windows. But I'm going to need to let it dry a bit before I do those darker bits and those top row of windows there. So I'm going to leave it for a few minutes. Right, I think we're nearly there. Just some last bits and pieces. I'll take the smaller brush and really try and get the thickest consistency of this shadow color that I can find. I'm going to do these last few windows here. This signboard, I could probably even come and do it in pen even. Just add a bit of color, or just add a bit of the darker color there, but let some light show through. Let's do this doorway. And I'm just going to do the under the thatch on this one. Just drop in a bit darker. Now I've been considering the sort of hump on the thatch, that I think I want to get that in, but I also just don't want to mess up the whole thing. So I'm going to be conservative. Let's do the further one away. I'm going to put a little bit of water down. Let me just do both at the same time. In that area that's in shadow. And get some of the shadow color. Drop it in. And then just blend it upwards. I think that's more than enough. I didn't do much texture in those shrubs on the top there. I'm just going to pick up whatever green is here and just put at the bottom. And maybe I'll just define these, whatever these plants are, a little bit. And make this bush different to the others. And maybe I will just get a little bit of the Quinacridone Rose. I just want to do another little bit of contrast on the red and just see if I can get a little bit more pop here. So I'm kind of going inside the red that I've already done and not filling the whole area, just doing a little bit of a contrast color in places. I'm going to let that dry, but I think that that might be it. And there's the final painting. I hope that you enjoyed the video today. If you did, please give it a like, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments box below. Also, I would love to see your paintings, and if you've done it, then share it on my Facebook group, which is Christine McLaren Art. I'll see you there. Until next time, bye for now.